boy, my dress uniform. I shall be needing it when we land on Earth. Come this way. Here's some more.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Put it right there.
Don't you think we're being just a bit hasty?
Hasty? Fitzhugh? How could you even think such a thing?
Get the rest of the stuff.
Steve hasn't ordered us to load up the ship yet.
My boy, there's a fine line in the Navy between insubordination and mutiny. You're standing on it.
You're not going to convince me that Barry is in the Navy until you can show me paperwork and a mermaid tattoo.
After all, Fitzhugh, they're still in there wrestling with a device. We don't even know if it's going to work or not.
Of course it's going to work. I myself thought of something like that before they came up with this Delta device.
Good. Good, Fitzhugh. Then if theirs doesn't work, we can use yours.
The prevailing wisdom about the show says Valerie grew the most, but I have to place these two at about equal. For one thing, as we saw, yes, Valerie has gotten way more confident to the point where she has no problem calling out Fitzhugh's exaggerations. But you notice that Fitzhugh has grown to the point where he takes it too. He's slowly coming to understand that everybody's okay with regular old Fitzhugh. He doesn't have to be the best of everything. He's learning to be himself, and more important, to look at himself and understand what the others see. And the more time he spends around them, the more he's not crazy about what they see. So he's quietly trying to change. I give him credit for everything he's done up to this point, and I also give him props for not getting his nose out of joint when Valerie made her little joke. He's a very different person from the guy who was trying to make love to that briefcase back in the beginning. Anyway, what's a Delta device and where'd they get it?
It's still going up.
I don't like it. It's potentially unstable.
Well, it's your baby. If anybody can make it work, you can.
Not without Andre's help.
Andre is a giant scientist who's friendly with them and wants to help them get home. And before anybody gets any ideas, no, I can't do any Andre the Giant jokes. Why? Because he was just starting his career in France. Nobody over here even heard of him until 1973 when he toured the U.S. doing wrestling competitions. The little people's Andre only wrestles with equations.
I'd sure like him to examine this last modification I made.
You'll examine it, but the sketch that Dan took him. That's all he needs.
It's not the same as having it here to look at the installation. He gave us this device, remember?
They get into a little argument about whether they should ever let a giant know the location of their camp. Steve wins, of course. No giants, end of discussion.
Andre, I wanted to ask.
It's easy to gather that this guy is Andre's boss. He's also nosy. He starts poking through Andre's desk and comes up with the diagram Steve mentioned.
Dr. Berger. Can I help you, sir?
Oh, no, Andre, that's all right. I did want to talk to you about these, but they can wait.
Andre doesn't have an explanation for the smaller diagrams. He says it's something he's been fiddling with, no big deal. I'm not sure Dr. Berger believes him, but Andre can't stay around to argue about it. He has an appointment.
Inspector Kobik.
Hey, Kobik, you old obsessive liar, you. How you been?
This is Dr. Berger. You remember what I told you about my assistant, Andre, and my suspicions of him?
Yes, I do, Doctor. Have you been able to obtain the proof we need?
Plenty of it. And I intend to get some more. Evidence that any court would allow.
Andre is indeed working with the little people, as we already know. His real name was Yale Summers, and he was probably best known as Jack Dane in the 1966 series Daktari. It was a show about an animal science center in Africa, and it ran for 4 seasons. I never saw it, but it's been long enough that I couldn't tell you why.
Here I am, Andre.
Our brought you Mark's sketch of the last modification you suggested.
Yeah, it ought to work.
He'd like to see the equipment, but Dan reports that Steve won't change his mind. Andre respects that. He also can't stay long. He's pretty sure Dr. Berger is getting suspicious.
Well, what would they do to you if they caught you?
They'd put me in prison. At least.
Thanks to raging zealots like Kobik, aiding the little people could possibly be a capital offense, which means they might kill you, but we love to use polite euphemisms for it when the state is doing it.
What's wrong?
The pressure's too high. I'm gonna turn it off before it explodes.
Too bad the off switch doesn't seem to work. There's a cutoff switch inside a panel, but opening the panel will expose them to radiation. Still, it's that or explode. That was colorful. We'll learn that there are radioactive elements on this planet that don't exist on Earth, which is why the effect of their radiation is impossible to predict. Good news, now we don't have to predict. We can just watch.
Steve, what happened?
Dan? Radiation. We had to shut the whole thing down.
The Delta effect. Ask them if they were able to shield themselves.
No, there wasn't time.
Andre doesn't know any more about the possible effects than anyone else. This world is just starting to crack the secrets of the atom, and they're cracking open very slowly.
I understand that some of the elements we're working with don't even exist on your planet.
So?
So I don't know what the effect would be, for them or for us.
I don't actually know if it's true or not, but there's a persistent story that when the scientists on the Manhattan Project exploded the first nuclear bomb, they had no idea how far the chain reaction would go. For all they knew, it was going to destroy the entire planet and everybody on it. So they exploded it to find out. I suppose it was the most effective way.
Dr. Berger. Andre, having a conversation with one of your little people. Little people? Don't deny it. I just saw him. There you are.
What's he doing? Kobik wants living, healthy little people, not bits and pieces of what used to be little people. Dr. Berger doesn't seem to grasp that because he'll be doing this with that cane all through the episode. And Dan will spend the rest of the episode with his arm and shoulder in a sling and bandage, thanks to the educated idiot.
Distinctly as I see my own... Dr. Berger, you're wasting your time. Am I? Look at that. It's too good to be true. Not only the little people, but their encampment as well. Even their spaceship.
You shouldn't have done that. Now they have to eliminate you.
What's happening? Camp.
I didn't see any camp, Dr. Berger.
I saw it. It was right there. Right in front of our eyes. Where is it?
Maybe they don't have to eliminate you. Nobody can explain it, but even though he's standing right on top of them and is still coming dangerously close with that stupid cane, he can't see them.
There certainly isn't anything there now, is there?
What was that?
What, sir? I didn't hear anything. Dr. Berger, maybe you're not feeling well, sir.
That's it, Dr. Berger. Let's go back and get you a nice hot toddy and a nap and forget all about the little ship that wasn't there, okay? The crew surmises that something about the radiation affected the giant's vision. Mark says there's no telling what effects radiation will have. I've talked about 60s television and its love affair with crazy radiation effects, but I can't remember exactly where, so you'll just have to watch all the rest of my videos if you want to find it. Yes, I'll try lots of different ways to drum up more views. Don't shame me because I have no shame. Chipper runs off and Barry runs after him. Valerie runs after Barry, whereupon Steve runs after Valerie.
Said the strangest Valerie?
Further ahead, I think Chipper went looking for a playmate, and he found one.
Barry, run! Come on out!
By the way, iguanas are herbivores. He's not likely to give you much trouble unless you try to steal the leaf he's munching on. She's gonna have a fun time explaining that to Steve. In Kobik's office, the inspector has just about had enough of the mad doctor.
Actually, you were so anxious to see this camp for the little people that you conjured up a mental image of something that was not really there. Isn't that the real explanation, Doctor?
I admit that it sounds like the only logical explanation, but...
Very well, then. We'll consider the case closed.
No!
Dr. Berger still thinks Andre is consorting with the little people, maybe even giving them secrets and technology. Kobik doesn't care.
Are you going to take the trouble to investigate, or must I take it up with your superiors?
You can take it up with anyone you care to.
But I...
Don't try to threaten me, Doctor.
I'm pretty sure in this town he doesn't have any superiors. He's it, so you have fun with that. The doctor backs down real quick. Kobik agrees to go into the woods and check the spot where he thought he saw the ship.
I hope you haven't brought me out here in a wild goose chase.
The little people are not wild geese, Inspector.
Once again, I'm struck by the amazing parallels between this world and Earth. This world even has wild geese and people who chase them. What are the odds?
They don't come flying up to you. Just to go down to the underbrush, to look for them, poke around in it.
Because that worked so well for you last time. Is he trying to tell Kobik how to find little people? Really? While Berger is poking and Kobik is yawning, Steve tests a hypothesis.
He can't see us. He really can't see us.
He's gone.
That's the best thing that's happened to everyone concerned all day. Steve sends Valerie back to camp. Whatever that radiation is doing, so far it hasn't affected Coben. He has Valerie in one of those ever-popular small animal cages.
What are you looking for?
Trouble.
Well, it worked fine earlier. Why don't you reactivate it again and forget about it?
Because it might mean another radiation bath.
Like the last one? Well, we aren't any the worse for it.
Fitzhugh, that's not all that can happen. This thing's a regular Pandora's box.
It was so nice of Andre to give them such a box, wasn't it? He's befriended them and obviously likes them, but I can't escape the feeling he's also using them as guinea pigs.
You see that gauge you're leaning against? If the pressure gets beyond that red line area, we could have an explosion that might vaporize the entire spaceship and the campsite as well.
Okay, here's a little memory test for us. Person, man, no, that was something else. They told him that the device is still unstable and if the pressure builds up too high, it'll explode. Let's all tuck that away for later.
Could might. A competent engineer would start it up again and watch closely over it. It could and might work fine.
A competent engineer would check it out some more, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
Mark's engineering skills have kept them alive. Insulting him about them now is not a good idea, Fitzhugh. Remember those missiles Titus wanted him to build? He just might build one and make you sit on it. Dan and Mark both have to leave the room when we all know what Fitzhugh is going to do, so there's no good reason to spend any time on it. Steve reports about Barry and Valerie, but it's worse. The radiation can also make the giants invisible to us.
Well, then you mean a giant could be looking at us right now, reaching down to grab us, and we wouldn't know it.
Exactly. That's why we have to get some kind of antidote for this radiation. We're much too vulnerable the way we are.
That means go to town to the science building and either find Andre or look around his lab for something they can use to get out of this mess. They'll leave Fitzhugh by the radio.
You are charged with consorting with little people.
You must have been imagining things, Inspector. I know Dr. Berger thought he saw the little people, but, well, when we looked, there was no sign of them. But you admitted as much yourself, Dr. Berger.
Without tangible evidence, I can't charge him with anything.
Kobik says, tangible evidence? What do you call the little woman in this cage?
Girl?
You don't see her.
No.
As sincere as they seem to be, Kobik has a hard time believing they're deliberately lying, but he can't come up with a better explanation.
I want an official statement on this for the record. Wait right here.
Do you see anything in that cage?
Of course not. They're trying to trap us.
Trap us? Why?
That's why the SID does anything.
I've got to be sure.
Kobik comes back, finds the cage open and his prize gone, and he is not happy.
Who opened the door of that cage?
I did. But I can't see what difference it makes.
You've let her escape. Now search the room, both of you.
Search for what? As far as they know, they're looking for a nothing because there was nothing in the cage. I'm not sure Kobik grasps that yet. While they're indulging the inspector's fantasies, Steve, Dan, and Mark have reached the street where the lab is.
That doesn't make sense.
Now we've all seen it. Could be part of the same Delta effect.
Whatever that is. Andre mentioned it but didn't explain it. So as a public service, here you go. The Delta effect is a phenomenon where, under the effects of radiation, objects may alter themselves to conform to the needs of a plot line. Note that this phenomenon does not exist on Earth, it only happens on other planets, and then only when Earth people are visiting the planet. I hope this has been helpful. The thing is, they know the cars and stuff are still there because they can hear them. That means crossing the street blindfolded, as Steve puts it. But they have to get to that lab and sort this out. So they get to play bumper tag.
Pull it!
Or not. Their second attempt was even worse. By the time they were done, red sidewall tires were the new big fad all over town. Ew.
Maybe we better try the back way. I think so. Across the train tracks, huh? Mark, give me a hand.
No, your town has a confusing layout.
Hey, what happened to him?
He isn't just invisible, he's gone. And so is Steve. He's not actually gone, but going by the visuals, he's in some other dimension or otherwise out of phase with the physical world he's in.
Dan going Spindrift. Can you hear me, Fitzhugh? Fitzhugh, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
As far as we know, Dan is in that same altered thing, but his radio can still reach the ship. It's absolutely uncanny what radiation can do, and since radio waves are a form of radiation, there's your explanation.
Fitzhugh, can you hear me? Anybody, anywhere, come in.
Steve reports that he's on a traffic island in the middle of the street. Dan is in the lab. Neither has any idea how he got there. And I don't know if we're supposed to notice or not, but Dan doesn't have a bandage on his shoulder now. He'll start searching the lab for an antidote to this stuff while Steve dodges invisible cars to join him.
But why is this so important to you?
I've already told you. Andre is consorting with the little people, giving them our scientific secrets. When I came upon them, I heard him speaking about our new frontiers of science. His very words.
Then you're motivated by patriotism?
What else would I be motivated by, Inspector?
The reward, maybe? Enough money to make you independently wealthy so you never have to work again? Now, that couldn't be it. He manages to wear Kobik down enough that Kobik says, fine, we'll take one more look tomorrow. At least he knows he can see them. Valerie is back at the ship and it's giving her the creeps. She calls Mark on the radio and he says, don't ignore that feeling. Maybe it'd be better if you go hide in the forest for now. Something very weird is going on here. Yeah, and the 1906 San Francisco earthquake shook things up a bit. There's a whole sequence in here that fills up several minutes, and it's nothing but Steve hallucinating all kinds of weird stuff, including a cane sword fight with Mark. We see Steve second-guessing himself about letting Andre come to the camp. That's the crux of the whole thing. Steve isn't sure he made the right decision. He keeps pointing out to his imagination that it really doesn't matter right now and nobody's listening. It's strange, hard to understand, but more important, Steve is right. It doesn't matter. The whole thing is filler. It's meaningless. Steve looked around and saw Doug Phillips and Tony Newman landing the same way, and that was when he knew things had gone horribly wrong.
Captain Burton. Captain Burton. Captain Burton. Captain Burton.
That's you.
Captain, you're hurt. Let me help you up.
That's you. Is that really you?
Of course it's me.
Fitzhugh was at the ship, and suddenly he was wherever this is. He's been wandering around ever since and found Steve lying here. Neither has any idea how he got where they are now.
Hello, Spindrift. Does anybody hear me?
Is that you, Dan?
Fitzhugh, is it good to hear your voice? Where are you?
Dan, where are you?
I'm at the base of the lamppost at 14th and Briar.
What side of the street?
The north side. The same place I saw you and Mark last.
That's right around the corner.
He's also wearing his bandage, so that was also part of Steve's hallucination.
Look. They're all there again.
What do you mean again?
Well, they always were there, but the important thing is we can see them again.
Fitzhugh missed the first act, remember?
Oh, man. Am I glad for company. I've never been so lonesome in all my life.
I know how you feel. I think we've all had the same experience.
What about Mark?
No sign of him yet.
That radiation's really been bouncing us around.
I think we're just about out of it, though.
Unless the element they were exposed to has a half-life of a couple of hours, radiation doesn't work like that. You don't get out of it. When you're exposed, the goal is to get it out of you. In the park, Mark and Valerie have found each other. She explains that Dr. Berger couldn't see her and just opened the door and let her out.
What's happening, Mark?
Well, it was that accident we had with the Delta device. The radiation produced some pretty strange effects in all of us, the Giants included. It made you invisible to him.
Well, why just me? I could see him.
It's not just you, it's all of us. Steve and Dan just disappeared into thin air. I don't even know where they are right now.
Hey, Mark.
It's Andre. He'd like to know what's going on and why they suddenly disappeared.
Then it affected you, too.
What did?
The radiation from your Delta device. It's causing all of us to hallucinate.
Uh-huh. That explains a lot of the things that have been happening around here.
It's not all just hallucinating. Dan, Steve, and Fitzhugh all got relocated when they weren't looking. But before Mark can start to explain about that, someone's coming. Guess who?
Ah, Dr. Berger. There you are.
Andre, I didn't see you there.
Naturally not, sir. I've been watching you.
Watching me?
Yes, sir. I've been watching you for quite some time.
What are you talking about?
I must say, it was very clever of you to accuse me of consorting with the little people when all the time you were the guilty one.
I already have plenty of copyright issues with this show, so I can't do it, but I wish I could just let this run. It's a thing of beauty.
How dare you? How dare I what? Report the eminent Dr. Berger? Well, I consider it my duty, sir. I'm sorry.
You stand there and accuse me of treachery. You're trying to discredit me because you're jealous of my superior position at the laboratory. You're the one who's been consorting with the little people, not me.
Is that the defense you're going to use?
Kobik has heard enough.
I want this man put under arrest immediately.
On the contrary, Berger, it's you who will be put under arrest.
What? No, wait, Inspector, listen to me.
I've heard enough. You'll be called in to answer, one, why you wasted the time of the SID and my time with your unfounded charges. And two, why you allowed that girl to escape from my office.
He even admitted that he was the one who opened the cage, and his explanation, Andre must have hypnotized him. If Kobik goes forward with this, Dr. Berger's going to spend the rest of his life making license plates.
You're a very clever young man.
Dr. Berger, I'll forget about my charges if you forget about yours.
Or he could just hand his fuzzy things to Andre because Andre's already got him by them.
Anybody home? Hello?
As far as we know, Barry has no idea what's been happening. Meanwhile, the others have linked up again. Looks like everybody's visible and back in this whatever again.
Spindrift. Barry. Barry, come in.
Go ahead, Captain.
Barry does have a small problem.
Captain, I can't hear you. The device is making a lot of static.
I think I'm getting through. Wait a minute, that sound. It's like the warning buzzer on the device.
I didn't realize. I had no idea. I didn't know.
Okay, it's time to come back to our little memory test. Remember?
You see that gauge you're leaning against? If the pressure gets beyond that red line area, we could have an explosion that might vaporize the entire spaceship and the campsite as well.
So he's not being accurate when he says he didn't know. What he means is he didn't listen. They can't get through the radio to tell Barry to get out of there. The gauge is already in the red, and the guys may not get there in time to prevent disaster. It'd be good if that effect is slowing the device down, too. Crisis averted. No more radiation, no more weirdness, no more teachers dirty. Wait, that's not right. Now, they're living in a great big weirdness, but you know what I mean. And now they can call Andre and tell him he can have his gadget back now. He probably won't return their security deposit, though. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please click the thumbs up. It really does help the channel. If you're not subscribed yet, the button looks something like this. So click it and join our little family. There's a bell there that may or may not actually work to give you notifications when we post something, but it can't hurt to click it just in case. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. The little people sound okay. But opening the panel will... Come on, slow down. Remember exactly where, so you'll just have to... Good grief. I've talked about 60s television and its love affair with Crady, fuzzy things to Andre because... If Kobik goes forward with...